Hello guys, how is everyone doing? It's Professional here. I wanted to make a new series of lore videos on Red Dead Redemption 2, where I look at characters and various gangs and I give my analysis of them and what I think of them. I thought the perfect character to start off this series would be Dutch Van Der Linde, the leader of the Van Der Linde gang. I've been working on this video for a few weeks. I hope that you guys enjoy it. I wanted to thank my friend Sean Easy for allowing me to use all of his Dutch footage. He has a great channel with all the scenes and events of many of the characters in Red Dead. He has an entire video on all of Dutch's appearances. Check out his channel. I will link it down below. He has a great channel. Now, this video, it has major spoilers, so if you didn't complete Red Dead Redemption 1 or 2 and you don't want spoilers, don't watch it. But if you don't mind spoilers, then here we go. Dutch is a character that most people liked when they started Red Dead Redemption 2, but by the end of the game, most players hated him, including myself. I'm going to give my analysis of him, and why I think he does the things he does, and what goes on in his mind. We're going to try to look at it from his perspective. Now, many people are still arguing to this day. Was Dutch always a bad person like he was at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1, or did that behavior develop later on and he went insane? Was he always a bad person? Did he have that inside him, or did he change? Watching how he acts and runs things, I'm going to try to answer this question. Now, Dutch Van Der Linde was born in 1855 to an unknown father and a mother named Greta. The only thing that is known about his father is that he fought in the Union Army and died during the American Civil War. This caused Dutch to develop a deep hatred of Southerners, like we see in Chapter 3, especially when he kills the entire Braithwaite family after Jack is kidnapped. When Dutch was 15 years old, he ran away from home because of a conflict he had with his mother. Later on, he found out his mother had passed away. He resorted to a life of crime, robbing people in the early days of the Wild West. One day he met Hosea Matthews, a con artist, who was trying to rob him, and Dutch was also trying to rob him at the same time. They ended up not robbing each other, and they became the best of friends. They would go on to form the Van Der Linde gang. Hosea and Dutch would also run into Arthur Morgan, who was an orphan, and grew up with the gang, seeing it as his family. Dutch began a partnership with another notable outlaw named Colm O'Driscoll, and he ended up killing Colm's brother for an unknown reason. Colm in retaliation killed Annabelle, Dutch's lover. This would start a conflict for many years that would eventually end in Red Dead Redemption 2. Dutch wanted his gang to be different from Colm's gang. He saw Colm as a person who didn't value his men. He only valued money and large numbers. Dutch wanted something more in a gang. He saw the injustices many people face, the rich against the poor, he was against racism, and he gave women prominent roles in his gang, while in all the other gangs in the game, we don't really see any female characters. Dutch believed in individual liberty, he valued individual liberty, and he wanted the world to be like the Wild West in his young days. No federal government, no urbanization, small town America. He hated industrialization, and he saw it as a way for the federal government to expand, as well as the rich taking advantage of the poor. This is why he has a deep hatred for cities, as we can see his reaction to Saint Denis, which is based off New Orleans.
Okay, there she is. A real city. The future. Big cities. They're always repellent. Exactly. I'll find you in there. Go see what you can figure out. Yes.
Dutch believed in an anarchistic world, free of government and the rich, where people would work together and eliminate all the injustices in the world, almost like a perfect utopia. He saw himself as a Robin Hood-like figure, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. This is what he formed his gang on. Almost every single other gang in the game is based on either brutality or making money. The only other gang of a political affiliation are the Lemoyne Raiders, but they are the opposite of what the Van Der Linde gang stands for. They work for the rich, the Braithwaites, and they support a return of the Confederacy. They hate Northerners and are extremely hostile to anyone of color. In the future, I will most likely do a video covering the Lemoyne Raiders in depth. Dutch's gang, because of its political affiliation, was different than any other gang. Because of this, Dutch was able to justify the crimes of the gang for a greater good, for a better world for everyone. Dutch was very smart in his approach to forming the gang, and he was very charismatic, which helped. He definitely was a great public speaker.
Sean, Mac, they may be okay. We don't know. But we lost some folks. Now, if I could throw myself in the ground in their stead, I'd do it. Gladly. But we're gonna ride out and we're gonna find some food. Everybody, we're safe now. There ain't nobody following us through a storm like this one. And by the time they get here, well, we're gonna be long gone. We've been through worse than this before. Mr. Pearson, Miss Grimshaw, I need you to turn this place into a camp. We may be here for a few days. Now, all of you, get yourselves warm. Stay strong. Stay with me. We ain't done yet. Come on, Arthur.
Because of Dutch's politics, he became a teacher to many of his followers. He was able to instill loyalty in his gang, and valued that versus Colm, who just valued numbers. This is what Angelo Bronte, the antagonist of Chapter 4, does not understand. Bronte is that type of man that believes he's invincible, and he can buy out or kill anyone he wants. When Dutch kidnaps him in Chapter 4, he is so confident that he offers money to anyone who kills Dutch and frees him. However, no one does so because his gang is loyal to him, not to money. Bronte never understood loyalty, and because of that, he suffered Dutch's wrath. Over the years, Dutch was able to attract many members to his gang, including John Marston, Arthur Morgan, Javier Escuela, Billy Williamson, Susan Grimshaw, and more. He saw his gang as brothers and sisters, and even the younger ones like sons, or at least he acted like that. Over the years, Dutch tries hard to battle the federal government and gain money for his gang. However, over time, he realized his struggle was futile. The federal government was expanding out west, new technology was being developed which allowed the government greater control, and an expanded law enforcement destroyed his dreams of a free Wild West. By 1899, his view changed from trying to liberate the Wild West to escaping the United States, finding new land in another country, and creating his dream world there. His countries of choice were Australia, which was very unregulated in 1899, or Tahiti, a group of islands in Asia. Dutch knew he needed money in order to escape and form a new life. With his gang elsewhere, he decided to increase his robberies, attacking much bigger targets. He focused on towns like Blackwater, which he hated. He saw it as the start of the end for the Wild West, the modernizing and urbanization of a small town. He pushed his gang and told them one last score and we can leave. This is the Blackwater ferry heist mentioned at the start of the game. It's unknown exactly what happened there, but we know it ended in a disaster. Sean was arrested, Mac Callender died in a shootout, and his brother Davey ended up dying on the mountains when the gang fled up there. Dutch shot an innocent woman named Heidi McCourt, which the strange man mentions in Red Dead Redemption 1. This is a violation of one of Dutch's biggest rules, never kill in cold blood, yet he does it. The events of Red Dead Redemption 2 start right after the ferry heist, when the gang is on the run from the Pinkertons up in the mountains. Due to this, his best friend Hosea ends up starting to lose faith in him. When they are up on the mountains, Dutch sends Micah out to scout, where he finds a nearby house. When Arthur, Dutch, and Micah arrive, it turns out the O'Driscolls killed Mr. Adler and took Sadie hostage. Dutch rescues Sadie. However, when he has Arthur go to the barn, Arthur gets attacked by an O'Driscoll. Eventually, Arthur wins the fight and the O'Driscoll surrenders. He gives Arthur all the information Dutch wants, but Dutch, instead of telling Arthur to spare him, tells him to do what you want with him. Arthur is given the choice to let him run off or choke him to death. That is killing in cold blood. While he may be from a rival gang, he clearly surrendered.
More than that, I swear!
Well, I would say it looks like you have this, Arthur. Do what you want with him. I don't care. But bring that horse when you're done. Oh.
I don't know anything else. Please, please spare me. I promise you won't see me again, partner. I just do what I'm told, please.
Get the hell out of here. Go.
Later, when Dutch finds out the O'Driscolls are at a nearby mining town, he swears to wipe them out. When he leads his men, the gang clears out the town and they capture Keir and Duffy. They find dynamite and learn about the plans to rob Leviticus Cornwall's train coming through the area. Cornwall represents the person Dutch hates, a greedy, rich industrialist who does not value the lives of the poor, only his personal wealth. He plans to rob the train, but Hosea tells Dutch it's a bad idea. Hosea is no fan of Cornwall, but his belief is that robbing the train will get more attention on them. After all, they are on the run after a failed Blackwater heist. Dutch decides to ignore this, but Hosea ends up being right. The train robbery was a mistake, when Cornwall sends the Pinkertons after them later on.
What do you want from me, Hosea?
I just don't want any more folks to die, Dutch.
We're living, Hosea. We're living. Look at me. We're living. Even you. But we need money. Everything we has in Blackwater. You fancy heading back there?
No. Listen, Dutch, I ain't trying to undermine you. I just want to stick to the plan, which was to lie low, then head back out west. Now, suddenly we're about to rob a train.
What choice have we got?
Leviticus Cornwall's no joke, Dutch.
Who is Leviticus Cornwall?
He's a big railway magnate, sugar dealer, oil man.
Well, how good for him. Sounds like he has more than enough to share.
Dutch!
Gentlemen, it is time to make something of ourselves. Get your horses ready. We have a train to rob.
During the train heist, Dutch once again tells Arthur to do what he wants with the workers. I can understand wanting to kill Cornwall, but the train workers? They just work for Cornwall. Aren't these the people that Dutch is supposed to be fighting for, the common workers? Instead, he just robs the train and tells Arthur he can kill them all if he wants.
All right, come on. Come out here. We don't want to kill you. We just want to rob your boss. Get on up there. Search that train. What did you find?
These bonds. They worth anything?
Oh, sure. Bearer bonds. I think we can probably sell these pretty easily. Well done. Now, would you get rid of all of this?
The train?
Yeah, get it out of here.
What about them?
What do you think?
I don't know.
It's up to you. Kill them, leave them here, take them with you on the train. Just make sure they don't send no folk after us.
Okay.
See you back at camp. When you get back, we'll be moving on. The rest of you, let's ride!
Robbing this train was a terrible decision, as even though it got the gang some money, it put too much heat on them. Leviticus Cornwall was one of the most richest and powerful men in America, and he sent the Pinkertons after them as a result. Later in the story, when Arthur and John stop in Valentine, after herding sheep, Cornwall captures John and Strauss. The gang manages to fight their way out, barely escaping. Then Dutch realizes he has to change camp locations. He should have packed up and left the moment that Arthur informed him the Pinkertons knew they were in the area. Once the gang arrives in Lemoyne, they find out that Trelawney has been arrested. Dutch is smart here in this scene in how he deals with the convicts. He lets them escape and then helps the sheriff get them back. He does it so that Trelawney gets off, and he also plays the sheriff, who's an idiot. Unfortunately, though, Dutch starts getting a lot of stupid ideas when he hears about the Braithwaites and the Greys. They are two families that despise each other, and he honestly thinks he can play both families. Just listen to this.
So, what do you think?
About what?
The fine folks around these parts.
Oh, real nice.
Exactly. On the one side, we have got the Grey family. Scots, degenerates, drunkards, the local law. You couldn't make this stuff up. Rich as Croesus. And on the other, their mortal enemies, the Braithwaites. Moonshiners, hypocritical, both rolling, we believe.
In gold.
And in the middle of it all, you got some inbred retelling of Romeo and Juliet.
Exactly.
So what you boys thinking?
We try to rob them both.
You sure?
Why not?
Because we got lawmen in 3 different states after us.
Last thing I want is to get us into trouble, but we need money. Now, we have the opportunity here to put ourselves in the middle of something ain't nobody gonna know we was here, because even without us, these fools are gonna kill each other anyway.
Okay, well, Hosea's gone back to see that Braithwaite woman.
Good. Hosea should definitely take the lead on this. I sent Sean over to Braithwaite Manor, too. Now, you can meet up with them, or join John and Javier at the Gray's place. Something to do with the Braithwaite's prize horses.
Well, how the hell did we get in at the Gray's place?
Sheriff Gray kindly put in a word with his father. It ain't that complicated. We gotta convince each family that we're on their side, and then we rob them both. Before they figure out it was us that done it, and not the other lot, we'll be long gone. Think of it as payback for my daddy.
Payback. I ain't in the revenge business, Dutch. Least of all for something happened a long time ago.
Well, I guess we all gotta pay for something. Now, if you will excuse me, Arthur, I got to write a letter.
Dutch is so confident that they can rob both families and thinks they are idiots, but what he doesn't think of is both families betraying him and scamming him. First, let's start off with the Braithwaites. The gang helped Sheriff Gray stop their moonshine business, which the Lemoyne raiders were supplying. Hosea had an idea to sell the moonshine back to the Braithwaites. However, Madame Braithwaite told them she would give them an extra $10 if they went to the Gray Saloon and started handing out the alcohol for free. While Arthur and Hosea were doing that, the Lemoyne raiders walked in claiming that's their alcohol. I'm confident in saying she tipped off the raiders. She wanted them to go into town and ruin the Gray Saloon business, and then told the raiders to get rid of them. When Arthur and Hosea survived, Catherine acts friendly towards them and decides to use them. She pays the gang to burn the Gray's fields, and at the same time, Tavish Gray hires the gang to steal the Braithwaite's horses. He promises them $5,000, an unreasonable number, but they go for the job anyways and are paid only $750.
Sure.
Yeah, I know these horses. They ain't yours, but I like you, and I can give you 650 for them.
I was told we could get up to $5,000 for them.
And I was told the moon was made of ladies' tears. Only it ain't true, not one little bit.
But
I like you boys, but I ain't got more than 700 on me. You want it, or you want to ride them fellers into town, and maybe someone there'll hang you?
we're gonna need more than that.
I ain't got no more money, Pop. Here, take it or leave it. Uh-huh.
All right. You goddamn fool, Marston.
Ain't no one round here got $5,000, boys, but nice meeting you. See you boys again, I hope.
Eventually, the Braithwaites and the Grays figure out who the gang are, and they set them up when they enter Rhodes. First, Sean is killed, and then Jack is kidnapped by the Braithwaites after they find out the gang stole their horses, and it leads to a giant battle in which Dutch becomes so enraged he kills all of the Braithwaites and burns down their house. I guarantee he did this partially because of his father's death during the American Civil War. Now, this gave him a reason to go and kill all of them. After this, the gang finds out a powerful gangster, Angelo Bronte, has taken Jack and is in the city of Saint Denis. Remember how I said earlier the industrial cities are what Dutch despises. He hates them because they represent the industrialization of America, more technology and more control for the federal government. He sees cities as places where the rich and corrupt rule alongside the government. Dutch's main problem is that he always brags about how smart he is. He thinks he's playing everyone, when in reality, many people are playing him. He is fully convinced in his mind, or at least he acts like it, that Bronte is believing his nonsense. I think Bronte saw right through Dutch. He knew who Dutch was and did not believe that they were simple country folk, like Dutch stated. His business partners, the Braithwaites, all got wiped out with their house burnt down. Bronte, with all the connections and influence he has, there's no way he did not hear about that. Then Dutch comes in right after that, asking for Jack. Bronte knew they were responsible for killing the Braithwaites, but why did Bronte not just kill them? The reason I think he didn't kill them is because he thought to himself, let me see if I can use these guys for something. Then when I don't need them, I'll get rid of them. That's why he sends them out to kill the grave robbers. Then he invites them to the party at the mayor's house, pretending to be their friends. He tries to see if he has any more uses for them. He jokes around, asking Dutch if he will kill this journalist, trash-talking him, but Dutch refuses. Bronte is not the type of man you say no to. You can see how this infuriated him. He gets really angry by Dutch's refusal, but he tries to hide it.
That is Hector Fellows, this self-righteous newspaper man. Maybe you will kill him for me one day.
Well, we're not paid killers as such, not in cold blood anyway.
I did not know you were so particular that you wouldn't help a friend.
Oh, I'm willing to help in any way I can, within reason.
I'm going to pretend to understand what that means.
I meant no offense, sir.
None taken. None taken!
He then tells Dutch, there's a lot of money in the trolley station, and you have my permission. I cannot believe Dutch was so stupid here. The first time I played it, I was thinking, no, Dutch, no, it's a trap. But in Dutch's mind, he's thinking we help this guy out, he's not our enemy, let's see if we can use him. He doesn't think that Bronte is actually using him. Dutch thinks he has no reason to betray us, he just tipped us off about a potential cash job.
Good day to you. But before you go, what exactly are your plans here?
Well, we've not made any... Well, we are going to need some money.
Money, yes, of course. But there's money at the trolley station. They keep a lot of cash there in the day. Now, I could not involve myself in such matters. But you, as a guest, yes, as my guest, bah, do it, huh? Okay, good day, gentlemen.
Goodbye.
Ok ragazzi, adesso il vino buono.
Then when Arthur, Lenny, and Dutch go rob the trolley station, they barely find any money, and outside, they see all these cops. It's no doubt that Bronte tipped them off. Dutch is so ignorant that even after his huge shootout and barely escaping, he wonders why Bronte betrayed them. He doesn't seem to understand why. Arthur sums it up perfectly. Bronte feels like he's the king around here, and he doesn't like Dutch being in his territory.
Quarter. Don't forget the quarter. Shut up, Arthur. He set us up. Played me like a yokel. Put the law on us. What did we do to him? What did I do to him?
I guess he thinks he's the king around here. He don't want the likes of you. So, what are we doing next, Dutch?
We just need money. One more decent take, and we're gone. The bank is our bet. Hosea agrees.
Even after that?
Especially after that.
Dutch then makes the stupidest mistake. He decides to go after Bronte, despite Arthur telling him revenge is foolish several times. It does not benefit anyone. Dutch argues that Bronte is a threat to them, but he's only a threat if they stay in Saint Denis. He argues that he's a threat because he personally wants to kill him for betraying them, not because he feels he's a threat. Hosea disagrees, and listen carefully to what he says to Dutch about going for Bronte. Hosea, Dutch, and Arthur would often vote on plans, and Arthur made a big mistake going along with Dutch here, but we really can't blame Arthur because he still had faith in him as a leader at this point. Hosea started seeing how sloppy Dutch was getting. Dutch's plan to attack by the water, it was smart, but they still should have never gone after Bronte.
So, Arthur, you get the deciding vote.
About what? We take an insult and scurry off like cockroaches? Or deal with business the right way?
We don't need to take revenge. We hardly know the guy.
This ain't about revenge, Hosea. Angelo Bronte don't mean shit to me. This is about the fact we are planning to rob a bank in his town. A bank that he no doubt protects. A town where his men are gunning for us. Before we do that, we need to put him out of commission.
I disagree. There's always an easier way.
There ain't no easier way. Now, I know his type. He is a vindictive little power broker who rules by fear. Now, we pull that stunt in his cesspit of a town, we're doomed. You want to leave this place? Leave this country? We need that money.
Just don't feel good, Dutch.
This is it. This is the last job that we are ever going to pull. Before the year is out, we are going to be harvesting mangoes in Tahiti. Farmers. But we need seed capital, and we need to leave. You know it. I know it.
Forgive me if I can't think too much about the mango harvest.
This is it. Trust me. Arthur.
If it's business, well, business is business.
Angelo Bronte stands between us and our future.
You'll damn us all.
Arthur, come on.
You better be right about this one.
I am.
They kidnap Bronte from his home, and once Bronte is awake, he tries to bribe the gang on the boat to kill Dutch and free him. However, no one does so because they are all loyal to Dutch. This is what I said earlier. Bronte never understood loyalty. In his eyes, everyone could be bought out, everyone had a price, but he never had that sense of loyalty towards him, and underestimated the gang because of it. Dutch, in his rage, drowns Bronte. Dutch claimed the reason he went after Bronte was because Bronte posed a risk in Saint Denis. There was no risk anymore. It was all a show because Dutch felt humiliated by Bronte. He felt angry that he trusted him and wanted him dead. It had nothing to do with safety. If they would have stayed out of Saint Denis, the gang would have been fine. Instead, by raiding Bronte's mansion and killing so many people, they turned up the heat even more. They got more lawmen after them. First, they killed so many cops after robbing the trolley station, and now they killed a lot of people in his mansion and kidnapped the most powerful man in the city and murdered him. Does Dutch not think? Does he not think the police are going to be onto them even more? I say police and not lawmen because Saint Denis has their own police force. The heat is on now, the highest it has been. And Saint Denis, the police are ready. And the Pinkertons, they have had to heard about all the trouble that Dutch has caused by now. Dutch wants to rob the Saint Denis bank, claiming one more score and they will have enough money to leave. The same thing he repeats so many times. He also said one more score after the Blackwater robbery, and that was a failure. This is where people really start to doubt him. When they arrive in St. Denis for the bank robbery, Hosea creates a distraction with an explosion, and the gang goes into the bank. Halfway through the robbery, Hosea gets caught by the Pinkertons. The gang wonders about a rat here. We know from the story Micah betrays the gang, but I don't think Micah had anything to do with the Pinkertons being here, because Agent Milton states in Chapter 6 they picked Micah up after Guarma. The reason the cops were outside the bank so quick and they caught Hosea is not because of a rat, but because Dutch was so reckless. They already turned up the heat the most they possibly could. The Pinkertons knew the gang was in Lemoyne. The Braithwaites were wiped out, dozens of cops got killed in a shootout at the trolley station, and Bronte, the most powerful man in the city, was taken from his house and killed. It's obvious the Pinkertons figured Dutch would hit the bank next, and I can't believe Dutch went along with this and robbed the bank. It was an obvious target. They most likely waited until the gang was in the city, grabbed Hosea after distraction, and waited till the gang was trapped in the bank. As a result of Dutch's foolishness, Hosea got killed. This is one of the saddest parts of the game, as they should have originally listened to his advice and just headed out west. Instead, Dutch, of all his crimes, turned the heat all the way up on them. And Dutch could have saved him, but left him behind to get arrested, because John was doubting him earlier. Listen to this.
This is it, gentlemen. The last one.
Where have we heard that before?
What has happened to you, John? You lost all your heart.
I'm just trying to stay real about all this.
Real. Oh, how I detest that word. So devoid of imagination. This isn't some hick town $100 operation. This is a big city bank.
Right. With security, guards, police.
Hosea has done his reconnaissance. We've been over this.
Lenny got killed because of the robbery as well, and Charles almost got caught. They did manage to sneak on a boat at night, but a storm caused the boat to sink. Almost all the gold from the bank was lost, and the gang washed up in Guarma, which was a plantation island that was using slave labor. The gang gets captured but then escapes. They team up with a rebel named Hercules, and afterwards Arthur follows Dutch to help rescue Javier, who was still captured. This is where Arthur really starts to doubt Dutch, after Lenny's death, Hosea's death, and John's capture, and they just lost all their gold washing up on an island in the middle of a rebellion. Just listen to Dutch here. He is so arrogant that he even thinks that everything is still going according to plan.
Man, set sail for the one place. Ain't nobody gonna be expecting us. Get everybody together and get ourselves back on course.
Where would that be?
Place we just escaped from.
You want to go back to Saint Denis?
If it was you got left, you'd want us to go back.
I'd want it, but I wouldn't expect it.
That's the point. Ain't no one gonna expect it. We come back from the dead, gather everyone, and we leave before anyone realizes we've even resurrected.
Whatever you say. We're a bunch of penniless fugitives on some Caribbean dump, sneaking through caves while two of our best men got shot back home. How could I doubt you, Dutch?
You got no idea, Arthur. No idea at all. I will do whatever it takes for us to survive.
I guess that's what I'm afraid of.
Hold on.
What are you talking about?
You know, when I look back at all the chaos of the past few weeks, the apparent superficial chaos, I begin to wonder, maybe, for somebody, this is all going exactly to plan.
Still ain't sure what you're saying, Dutch.
Now here's where Arthur gets creeped out by Dutch, because he strangles an old woman guiding them after she demands more money. What happened to not killing in cold blood? Dutch justifies his actions by saying he understands a little bit of Spanish, and that she was going to betray them. Then a moment later he says he could see it in her eyes. Then he claims that he doesn't understand Spanish. He's lying. The reason he killed her was because he wanted to take the gold bar back. Oftentimes when someone is telling the truth, the story will be the same each time, but when there's details that change, it indicates that somebody is lying. One moment he says, I understand a little Spanish, then he says, no, it was in her eyes. It's clear he killed her for nothing. This is where Arthur begins to see Dutch's psychotic behavior.
Horrible old crone.
But you killed her.
She was gonna betray us, Arthur. Couldn't you tell?
No.
Well, I got some Spanish. She was.
You keep killing folk, Dutch.
I'm just trying to make sure that some of us survive, Arthur. Now, shall we proceed?
I guess.
Listen, son. You think I want any of this?
I don't know.
Of course I don't. But I made a pledge to you all. We would survive, no matter what.
So how did you know she was gonna betray us? What'd she say?
It was in her eyes, in the way she was leading us.
But you said you knew Spanish.
I know human beings, Arthur.
Are you gonna strangle me next?
I'm doing the best I can.
The reason that Dutch started acting this way is because Hosea is dead. There's no one left to keep him in check except Arthur. Dutch in his mind cannot accept that he messed up. He cannot accept that his plan was a complete failure, that he got both Hosea and Lenny killed and John arrested. Instead, he looks for excuses and keeps his motto that everything is going according to plan. He most likely believes his own nonsense because in his mind, he cannot be wrong. He can't be responsible. A good leader knows when to admit they were wrong. They take responsibility. They listen to the advice of people close to them. But in Dutch's case, he doubles down. He gets even more crazy with each plan. Getting stranded in Guarma was one of the worst things that ever happened in the gang. They had to fight Fusar's army and destroy a battleship. The gang got really lucky they found a captain here. After they killed Fusar, the captain agreed to take them back. Thankfully, he didn't dock the boat in Saint Denis like Dutch wanted. That would have been a disaster. The Pinkertons would have been swarming the area. Once the gang does arrive in Lakay, they get ambushed by the Pinkertons. We know this was now because of Micah, and Dutch is oblivious to all the heat that is surrounding the gang. When Abigail asks him about John, he blows it off, telling her that they will get him. In reality, I don't believe Dutch would have bothered in getting John. Think about it this way. Do you really think he was going to go back for someone that questioned his plans? After Hosea's death, Dutch snapped, and he instead wanted nothing but blind loyalty. Anyone that even questioned him a little was not acceptable. Listen to this cutscene right here. Arthur starts questioning Dutch and his actions, realizing Dutch is going to get a lot more people killed. When Arthur asks him what he's doing, Dutch accuses him of being disloyal. This is how ignorant Dutch is.
We're back, and I'm sitting here, and I am contemplating the great journey of the sun and considering a famous chess move. Those oily enactors of a mediocre justice, the Pinkertons, and their benefactor, the depressing millionaire Leviticus Cornwall, they want us, Arthur. They want us. And they are going to have us.
Maybe they ain't the problem.
Meaning?
I don't know, it's just, well, I can't help but feel we would have been better running off someplace else.
But the game ain't over, Arthur. I mean, I ain't played my final move, but
I guess I'm more interested in saving lives than winning at chess.
and maybe life ain't such a thing to cling on to so tightly.
No doubt. What about the women?
You sound like Hosea. I miss him.
I asked you a question.
What do you think?
We can't stay here. That much is obvious. Where are we gonna run to? I mean, they chased us from the west. They chased us over the mountains. They ran us into the sea.
Arthur, do you have my back?
Always, Dutch. But there's more than your back to worry about. We need more money. We've been on the run for months now, and I seen you killing folk in cold blood like you always told me not to. And I'm sorry, but I can't help but think that if we
There is country in Roanoke Ridge past Butcher Creek I believe we could hold.
Okay.
You and Charles, you could take folks up that way. Micah and I need to do some reconnaissance. I ain't got a final plan yet. Arthur, I ain't got it. I just need time. I need time and no traitors.
At this same time, Arthur found out he was dying from tuberculosis, and that he did not have long. Arthur tried his best to save the rest of the gang before his death. He didn't want the whole gang to collapse because of Dutch. The next thing he does is going to help rescue John from prison, despite Dutch not sending anyone to rescue him. Arthur and Sadie go to rescue John. When they get him back to the camp, Dutch is furious. You can tell from his voice. First, he says, "John, what are you doing here?" Then he changes it to, "I didn't send anyone for you." There's no question in my mind that he would have let John hang. He then would have told Abigail, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I could have done," just like he did at the end of the game when he tells Jack, "I'm sorry," when he refuses to go rescue Abigail and she is arrested. Dutch is furious that Arthur went against his orders. He can't seem to understand why Arthur did that, and instead sees him and Sadie as being disloyal.
We told you we would.
John! What are you doing here?
It's good to see you too, partner.
I meant I hadn't sent for you yet.
I win.
But I said that.
Yeah, I know what you said. I felt different.
Is that so?
Yes.
And when Spring and John brings the law down on all of us, what then, Arthur?
Well, I guess we'll have another fight on our hands.
Loyalty, Arthur. It ain't. I had a goddamn plan! John. You are my brother. You are my son. I was coming for you.
It was talking of hanging me, Dutch.
They was talking. They was talking. And now they may come and hang us all.
Later on, Dutch finds out Leviticus Cornwall will be in Ansburg, and decides to confront him. This is where Micah saw Arthur question Dutch, and he took advantage of the situation. Micah basically follows everything Dutch says blindly, but he does so to play Dutch, and he plays Dutch like a fool. Arthur tells Dutch that going after Cornwall will be a bad idea, but Dutch claims that Cornwall is an obstacle, and then he starts talking about the injustices Cornwall has committed. It's clear Dutch is using this as an excuse just to kill Cornwall. He must be an idiot if he thinks he can negotiate after all those robberies that somehow Cornwall will stop. It's nonsense. Just listen to Dutch's offer to Cornwall. I don't think he even believes it will happen.
I've heard just about enough.
I'll tell you what. You give me this ship, $10,000, and safe passage out of here, I'll let you live.
I'll do no such thing.
You sure? Good. I prefer it this way.
You lost your man!
Noise, Arthur! Noise!
Now that he has killed Cornwall, Dutch has turned up the heat even more. His logic is so flawed that the Pinkertons were in Cornwall's pocket and now they're going to have somehow less incentive to go after them. There's going to be even more Pinkertons after them. Dutch just killed one of the richest and most powerful men in America. Later at camp, he tells Arthur his plan, and listen to how ridiculous it sounds. He honestly thinks that the more chaos the gang causes, the easier it will be to escape in the confusion. Then he starts talking about one last score again.
Of course. New York. We are gonna go to New York. Now, they have been chasing us south and east and west. We're gonna get a boat, we're gonna get on a river, and we're gonna go north.
New York.
Then Tahiti, the Fiji Islands, or this place, New Guinea, dancing girls, freedom. But first, we have to make a whole lot of smoke, a whole lot of commotion. And then we disappear.
We need more commotion.
One score and one whole hell of a lot of noise.
We ain't so good at doing scores anymore, Dutch.
Are you feeling all right, Arthur?
Eagle Flies arrives at camp, and Dutch overhears the conflict his tribe is having with the army. Dutch wants to help, or acts like it. He acts like a friend towards Eagle Flies, but is he really Eagle Flies' friend? No, he's a manipulative scumbag. He even tells Eagle Flies to put his money away, pretending to be honorable. Why is he helping him? He's not. The real reason Dutch wants to help is to cause a conflict between the US Army and Eagle Flies' tribe. He even tells Arthur he knows it's going to cause a conflict and that it will be perfect for them to escape in the confusion. Basically, he's going to sacrifice an entire tribe, get them thrown off their land and killed, just so he has time to escape. First, the gang boards an army ship, helping to steal back the horses taken from the tribe. They are meant not to kill anyone, but this doesn't go according to plan. Then when Arthur can't figure out how to use the anchor, Dutch just tells him to blow it up, causing the ship to crash into the rocks. They just killed a bunch of soldiers and sunk an army vessel. The only thing I agree with him on later in the game is making sure that Cornwall Driscoll hangs. This actually eliminated one problem, because now the gang did not have to worry about Colm coming after them anymore. However though, Dutch makes the biggest mistake of all time, by trusting Micah so much. Due to Arthur questioning all of his nonsense, he was replaced with Micah. Micah was now the second in command. He played Dutch like a fool, and Dutch trusted him fully simply because he never questioned him. Dutch plans to blow up a train bridge in the area to keep the army away, only this will cause more heat. Micah then says they plan on going back to Blackwater during all the confusion and getting away with the money. Blackwater is crawling with Pinkertons. Like Arthur says, even a greedy fool like Micah knows that.
Blackwater's a fool's errand. Everyone knows it. Even a greedy moron like you.
It's Dutch's choice, Arthur. You're just a senior gun, same as the rest of us. Only you ain't, well...
I'm fine!
Then you'll do Dutch's bidding.
Later, Arthur meets Dutch, who is with the Wapiti tribe, and they are planning on ambushing the US Army with dynamite. Dutch's plan is to blow up a bunch of trees in the path of the army, scare them, and then ride away. Does this idiot not think? Does he not think that detonating explosives near armed soldiers and pointing guns at them will not cause anybody to get hurt? Dutch even admits to Arthur that he is basically using them, and then right after that, he denies that he's using them.
Besides, it's perfect. People will see these boys, they won't notice us, and they'll think we're gone. Everyone will blame everything on the Indian problem, and we'll disappear up the river. But first we need to trap them in this pass. Help me dynamite up these trees.
So, you're using them?
No, sir. No. Never. But it is mutually beneficial to draw attention to one problem and avail over another.
These are good people, but their situation is real complex. We ain't helping them.
Sure we are. Come on, let's get this done.
The plan completely fails when even more soldiers come, and then one fires and Dutch returns fire, causing everyone to shoot. This is the final spark in the conflict, as this causes a full-scale war between the Wapiti tribe and the US Army. Dutch and Arthur barely escape and fall into the water where Arthur almost drowns. Thankfully, Dutch pulls Arthur out, and I'm actually surprised he didn't just let him drown here. Later, Eagle Flies arrives at the camp and asks for Dutch's help in attacking the oil fields. However, Rains Falls arrives and tries to stop his son and tries to talk him out of it. It's clear from Dutch's facial expressions that he doesn't care for any of Rainfall's advice, but what gets him really angry is when Rains Falls asks Arthur for help and admits that Arthur helped him earlier. Dutch becomes furious that Arthur helped him and accuses Arthur of doing things behind his back simply because he talked to him. Micah takes advantage of the situation and uses it to get closer to Dutch, accusing Arthur of betrayal. At this point, Dutch most likely sees Arthur as a liability, and this is also the part where he sees John that way after he questions him. Dutch starts talking about how he has a plan and is going to justify causing a war by going back to his previous arguments of the industrialists and the federal government.
Stop. Please. Stop. Please, Mr. Morgan. Have to help me after we spoke. This is just a trap. My son, my people will all die.
You help this fella, Arthur?
Please. What of it?
What else you been doing behind Dutch's back?
What? The wars are over. We have lost. These young men will be annihilated. Please. I'll see what I can do. Charles. Who else will come with me?
Oh, all right, Arthur. Who knows what other secrets I'll learn about? Who else?
I will.
And me. Me too.
Oh, and me. I guess.
What else have you been doing behind my back, Arthur?
I was trying to stop this mess from getting any worse. Really, that didn't work.
Why the hell would they attack the oil fields?
What do you mean? It's perfect.
This was your idea?
Partly. The army, the government, the industrialists. They've taken everything from these people. Wouldn't you want to fight back?
You've handed them a death sentence.
Just like John if we hadn't got him out of that prison.
Hey, show some goddamn respect.
You'll know when I ain't showing respect, Bill.
I had a plan. I still have a plan.
What plan? What goddamn plan, Dutch? Tahiti? Timbuktu?
That's enough! What's wrong with you all? What happened to loyalty?
Yeah. What did?
Thank you, Javier. Bill. Right now, it doesn't matter how we got here. These men need our help. I have a plan. This is the plan. So either stick with me or cut loose.
This turns into a giant battle for the oil fields, and the real reason Dutch rode here wasn't to help the Wapiti tribe. The real reason he arrived at the oil fields was to get the state bonds. He was trying to justify his greedy actions by saying he's helping the tribe fight against the rich, the powerful government elites. In reality, he played them and doomed an entire tribe. The most important part here is when Dutch and Arthur were exiting the warehouse after they got the bonds. Arthur got hit by a steam from a pipe and knocked to the floor. He was in the process of getting killed or captured by the army, and Dutch leaves him. He sees him there, and he just leaves him. There's no question in my mind that Dutch wanted Arthur dead. He wanted him dead 100%. But I know what people are going to ask me. If Dutch wanted Arthur dead, why didn't he just kill him? The reason he doesn't just straight up kill Arthur is because the gang will most likely notice it. They will see it. If they see him killing Arthur because Arthur disagrees with him, this may cause a rebellion in his gang. People may question him even more. He instead waits for a perfect opportunity to get rid of Arthur. He sees that right here. Why should I go and help someone who is always doubting me? He's a liability. That's how Dutch sees it. Dutch in his mind always has to be right, no matter what. That's why he denies it when he clearly left him. It's because a leader like him has to be seen as a man of the people. He can't be seen as someone who leaves another one of his men behind. Just like he says several times in the story, if he could trade his place with anyone he could, I don't believe it. I believe it's a false speech, just to make himself look like a man of the people. Look at this, he's a fraud. I found this in chapter 2 in a crate, a little bit away from camp. It's Dutch's entire speech. He has been rehearsing it. Eagle Flies runs in and saves Arthur. Unfortunately, he gets shot. And this kid, Dutch was praising him. He was praising his leadership. He was praising him as a person. And now this kid is dying, and Dutch does not care. It's because he used him. He used him from the start.
Oh, you silly fool! Come on!
You saved my life. More than once. To give mine for yours, it's as it should be.
Come on!
We need to go.
You ran away.
Oh, I did no such thing. Don't be a fool. They could be back here any minute. We did it, gentlemen. Oh, we got some money. And with the train job, well, we got a whole lot of money. Come on. Everything is coming together. Exactly as I planned.
I've got to take the boy to his father.
As you wish. Usually is nowadays.
Sure.
Come on! We gotta get back to camp and prepare. Let's ride!
I'll be back when I can. I'll stay with you.
And me, of course.
When Arthur returns to camp, he finds out that Pearson, Uncle, Mary Beth have left the camp as well. Dutch reacts by calling them cowards. In his mind, he has made no mistakes. He hasn't gone crazy. Instead, anyone who does not follow him blindly is a coward and a liability. He does not even think for a second that he could be at fault. Instead, he resorts to blaming everyone else. I'm not the problem, they are.
Talking about Pearson left, old uncle, the traitors, both gone at dawn. They said to young Tilly they were running to save themselves. I think Mary Beth left as well.
So it goes.
They are goddamn cowards, Arthur. Cowards. Of all the time we spent to run off,
Well, I guess they don't want to die, Dutch.
ain't nobody gonna...
Dutch starts telling Arthur about the train heist, and Arthur realizes just how much heat they have on them at this point. He tells Dutch to let the women and the children go, because the Pinkertons will kill everyone. Dutch claims that nobody will die and refuses Arthur's plan. The reason I believe that he refuses to let the women and the children leave is because he knows that by doing so, he is admitting that there will be risk, and that he could endanger them with his plan. He wants to seem like the perfect leader like he is, so he will refuse to admit that there's any risk. He says his plan is perfect when he knows that there is risk. The most important part here is when Arthur says that he has to insist. Watch this part. Dutch pauses for a moment and then says, "John, insist?" Then he says, "Sure, buddy," and he quietly says to himself in an angrily tone, "Insist."
This is different. We know this is full of cash. Army payroll, money and supplies to repair the bridge that you blew. This is all going to plan. We rob Uncle Sam and we leave. The poetry of it all. What do you think?
It sounds wonderful. Hell, yeah. I ain't got much to lose, but... You know, the women and the children. And John and his family. I'm afraid I have to insist. I mean, we gotta let them go, because if the Pinkertons come through again, they will kill everyone.
John? Insist?
Yeah. Insist.
Of course, pal. Whatever you think is best, I will see to it. Huh? Now, we gonna rob a train?
Sure.
We will survive. We will flourish. We have work to do, my friends. Let's go. Come on. We are gonna borrow a little money from old Uncle Sam and be out of his hair once and for all. He insists upon it. He insists.
Dutch saw this as not only doubting him, but directly questioning and disobeying his orders. Because Arthur brought John into this, Dutch targeted him again. During the train robbery, John gets shot and thrown off the train, and Dutch says that he will get him. Dutch sees this as a perfect opportunity to get rid of John, and does so. Like I said, Dutch isn't going to outright kill Arthur and John, but if he sees an opportunity to get rid of them, he will take it. He knew Arthur would try to save John, and told him, "Don't worry, I got John, you get the money." If you watch this part closely, you can see Joe and Micah riding with Dutch, which indicates they knew that Dutch was leaving John. John later states at the caves, "They left me for dead."
I'll get John! You protect that money! Man the gun, Arthur! I'll go stop the train! Stop the train! Whatever you do, do not stop the train! Where's John?
I tried.
He didn't make it. That patrol killed him. We had to run.
Come on, let's go before another patrol turns up.
Ha! Ha!
After the train robbery, Dutch claims to the gang, "I did what I could, I'm sorry, John didn't make it." Everyone finds out Abigail has been arrested, and Micah claims, "We can't go back for her," playing Dutch. Abigail most likely was caught because of Micah, and Dutch does see Abigail as a liability as well, and agrees with Micah. They ride off, and Arthur, furious, goes to save Abigail with Sadie, and at this point he learns the truth from Agent Milton, that Micah is a rat.
Abigail. I saved Jack. We hid, but they took Abigail.
Who did?
Agent Milton and his men took her to Van Horn to be put on a boat and tried for murder.
I am sorry to hear that.
We gotta let her go. John's, well, sorry, son. Without John, she's just bait. We got a bunch of money, Dutch. She's just a girl. They won't do nothing to her. But me and the boys know. Yep. We need to keep riding on this one, Dutch. You know it. Every man here knows
So we
it.
just gonna let the boy be made an orphan?
It ain't like that.
What is it like?
I wanna live, cowpoke. I still got the choice. Dutch, it's just a girl.
You're right.
Micah, it pains me to say it, Arthur, but he is right.
Dutch!
Come on, boys.
Yeah! Well, I guess that's that then. All them goddamn years.
Come on, Arthur. Let's go get her. You and me is all we need.
Miss Tilly. Here. Take this. You take this money, too. Take Jack, and you wait at Copperhead Landing for Abigail and Mrs. Adler.
Thank you, Arthur.
You're a good girl. You live a good life now, you hear?
All right, Arthur. I'll miss...
Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Jack, come here. Be brave, son. I'm gonna go get your mama. Mrs. Adler.
I'll be just fine. We offered you a deal, Mr. Morgan. You should have taken it.
I'm a fool, Mr. Milton.
Not all you boys have quite so many scruples. Old Micah Bell.
Micah? You mean Molly?
Molly O'Shea? Sweated her a couple of times, never talked a word, had to let her go. Micah Bell. We picked him up when you boys came back from the Caribbean, and he's been a good boy ever since.
Okay. Okay.
Using your strength, Mr. Morgan.
You're still a yapping dog, Mr. Milton.
Arthur then returns to camp and he confronts Micah. He denies the whole thing and blames Arthur. Dutch takes Micah's side here because Micah would always listen to him and never doubt him or question him. He sees Arthur as the guy who always questions him and disobeys his orders. Arthur can't possibly be right here. He's betraying me, not Micah. That's what Dutch sees. What Dutch did not expect to happen here was that John would show up and tell everybody what really happened. Dutch claims he did not have a choice, but when John proceeds to yell at him, telling him that he left him, he gets angry. You can see just by his facial expression how angry he gets. Dutch at this point has been played by Micah so badly that when Miss Grimshaw puts two and two together, she realizes Micah is a rat and sides with Arthur and John. Micah shoots her, and Dutch did not care at all, despite how long Miss Grimshaw has been with the gang. As for Javier and Bill, well, they aren't rats like Micah, but they are blind followers of Dutch, and they will listen to Dutch no matter what.
All of you,
Well, we're doing our best.
hurry. We ain't got long. Hurry.
We just got plenty of time, Micah. We all need to have a little chat.
Black Lung, you're back. Hooray.
I just saw Agent Milton, Dutch. Abigail shot him. She's okay. Not that you care too much about that. You rats. All of you. Seems old Micah was pretty close with Milton.
What the hell are you talking about, cowpoke?
You talked.
That's a goddamn lie.
Dutch.
Dutch, think of the future.
Milton told me.
And you believe him, Black Lung? You believe him?
It all makes sense now.
No, it damn well doesn't.
Dutch. Think.
Dutch, be practical now.
Dutch!
John?
You left me! You left me to die! My boy. I didn't have a choice. John, I didn't have a choice. Left me!
All of you, you pick your side now because this is over. Oh, them years, Dutch. For this snake.
Oh, be quiet, cowpoke. Be quiet. You live in the clouds.
No, you be quiet, Mr. Bell, and put down your gun.
There's Pinkertons coming, fast!
Now! Who amongst you is with me? And who is betraying me. Well, I'm here. Think for yourself.
He's lying. He's lying!
Put your guns down!
God damn it! Move!
You ready, John?
What happens next is Arthur either goes back for the money or helps John escape. My favorite choice is helping John escape. After some running and fighting, Arthur tells John to run, and Micah attacks him. It ends in Arthur being knocked to the ground, and as he is about to get the gun, Dutch stops him, telling him it's over. In this scene, I believe Dutch was about to kill Arthur, until Arthur tells him that he gave him everything he had. Dutch's reaction here is the most important here, because for a small moment, we see a glimpse of humanity in him, where he doesn't hate Arthur for a second. Dutch realized how long Arthur has been in his gang from the very start, while Micah is still relatively new. He pushed Arthur aside, and now saw him dying, telling him that he gave him everything he had. At this point, Dutch is most likely thinking, oh no, what if I was wrong? What if Micah actually is a rat? What have I done? But why doesn't he help Arthur? Why does he walk away? Because by helping Arthur up, he would be admitting he was wrong. And by going with Micah, he was going to be working with someone who betrayed him. Dutch chooses to walk away, not taking any sides.
It is over. Now, Arthur. It's over.
Oh, Dutch. He's a rat. You know it, and I know it.
He's sick. He's dying. He's talking crazy.
There! Up there on the ridge!
I gave you all I had. I did.
Come on. Dutch. Let's go, buddy. We made it. We won. Come on.
John made it. He's the only one. The rest of us... No. But I tried. In the end, I did.
Come on. Let's go. We can make it. Come on, Dutch. Come on!
By 1907, 8 years later, John has tracked down Micah to his gang hideout, and after Micah takes Sadie hostage, Dutch walks outside, pointing his gun at John. Now this part confused a lot of people, including myself the first time I played it. Why is Dutch back up here with Micah if he realized Micah was a rat? Dutch wasn't with Micah in those past years. He was on his own. He only met up with Micah very recently. And listen carefully to what he says here when John asks him, "What are you doing here?"
What are you doing here, Dutch?
Same as you, I suppose.
Dutch and I are teaming up once more. We got money. We got dreams.
That's right, he admits to being up here for the same reason as John, to kill Micah. If John had not shown up, the result would have been the same. Dutch would have still killed Micah. Now here's the question. Why does he kill Micah? This is left to fan interpretation, as there are many theories on this. What do I think? Many people say he did it for Arthur. Some people say he did it because Dutch admired John's loyalty to Arthur. I think part of the reason may have been for Arthur, but I think the main reason he shot Micah was for himself. All of those years in between probably drove Dutch mad. He finally accepted that Micah had betrayed him, but probably still could not believe it. He could not believe he let someone that treacherous get so close to him. Dutch killed Micah because he felt insulted that he had ruined his plans and dreams. He held Micah responsible for ruining all of his aspirations. That's why he killed him, in my opinion. He had no plans for Tahiti anymore, not plans for his utopia. He would not stop fighting, but he walked away at this point, not caring. He let thousands of dollars of gold just sitting there. Dutch had given up, that he was willing to turn his back to John. He probably would not have cared if John even shot him. Dutch was a broken man. By 1911, with the events of Red Dead Redemption, John was forced to kill or capture Dutch by orders of Agent Ross. Dutch has created a new gang and has abandoned his entire political ideology. What was his new ideology? He has none. It was basically just cause as much chaos as possible, do whatever he felt like doing. In just 4 years, he had a much bigger gang. His new gang must have had at least 100 men, considering how many John kills and fights in Red Dead Redemption. But his new gang consisted almost entirely of Native Americans. How was Dutch able to raise a huge gang like this? It's because he was still a master manipulator. These people were the most vulnerable. They had lost their home, their families, everything. Dutch was able to use that to his advantage and play these people and get them to do his bidding. He most likely gave them some fake speeches like he did to his old gang. He would probably say the federal government has stolen your land and destroyed your way of life. I can help you get that back, follow me. That's how he was able to manipulate his new gang. Dutch in 1911 is much worse than Dutch in 1907. He murders anyone he wants, murdering an innocent woman in Blackwater and shooting a captured policeman in the head. He tries to kill John several times and tells John in one scene he will kill him and the professor. Listen to the reason Dutch says why he will kill them.
For the price of one out here in this wonderful place.
Maybe so, Dutch.
You and your friend there, the professor, we're gonna kill the both of you.
Why you want to do a thing like that?
I don't know. Sport, I guess.
Fair enough. Why don't I come out there? We fight. Let the professor go and send your boys back to their families.
Well, that sounds like a beautiful plan, John. Only problem is, my boys here, they already lost their families a long time ago. We aren't thieves, John. We're fighting for something a bit like you. Only we're fighting for an idea, not just for ourselves.
That's beautiful, Dutch. You always were a fine speaker.
I was. Now, would you kindly send that academic out here so we can show him what we really think about the art of anthropology?
Dutch's final downfall is on his mountain base. When the US Army attacks his camp, his gang is completely wiped out, and Dutch is cornered on the top of the mountain by John. Dutch gives the same speech he gave in the second game when he tells John that he can't fight change. He says that he has fought his entire life, and John tells him to just give up. Dutch says he can't, and then John says then he has to shoot him. Dutch admits to being a monster here. He basically admits that he's a terrible person. He tells John he has one final plan, and John mocks him by telling him he always has a plan. Dutch says this is a good one, actually admitting for once that his past plans were failures. He tells John, when I am gone, they will find another monster. They have to, because they have to justify their wages. Despite Dutch being a psychopath, he was completely right here, because later, Agent Ross does not stop like he promised, and kills John. Dutch kills himself here, jumping off the cliff, but why does he kill himself? I think he realized his time was up, and that everything he fought for was pointless. He did not want to be taken alive, and knew even if he somehow did escape, he would just keep fighting. He killed himself because, like he says, our time has passed.
I got a plan, John.
You always got a plan, Dutch.
This is a good one.
I don't doubt it.
We can't always fight nature, John. We can't fight change. Can't fight gravity. We can't fight nothing. My whole life, all I ever did was fight.
Then give up, Dutch.
But I can't give up, neither. I can't fight my own nature. That's a paradox, John. You see?
Then I have to shoot you.
When I'm gone, they'll just find another monster. They have to. Because they have to justify their wages.
That's their business.
Our time has passed, John.
If you guys have watched up until this point, I thank you. There is one final question about Dutch. Was he always a bad person, or did he change? My final answer, in my opinion, it's a combination of both. How? He was a bad person. He masqueraded pretending to be a good person, a man of the people to attract followers. While I do believe he did believe in his perfect world, he was willing to kill or sacrifice anyone to achieve it. He could commit any atrocity he wanted and justify it, saying it's for the greater good. Think about all the psychotic leaders in history. They often justified their atrocities and wars by saying it's for the greater good. If I was to compare Dutch to any figure in history, it would be Maximilien Robespierre during the French Revolution. He was a great public speaker, just like Dutch. He was able to rally his people to his cause. He talked about the unfair treatments of the poor. He talked about the evils of the rich. Many people followed him, and in the later stages of the French Revolution, Robespierre committed mass atrocities, and he was able to get to that point because he manipulated so many people to follow him. He killed so many people that his most loyal followers started doubting him, and he even killed his best friends. If you disagreed with him, you were called counter-revolutionary and could be sent to the guillotine. Ironically, Robespierre's downfall was a last stand of his most extremist supporters, where he was captured at the Hotel de Ville. He was declared counter-revolutionary, as he had declared so many people before and executed. The reason I say Dutch is both a bad person and that he changed is because he hid that evil, violent nature within himself. Psychopaths can often hide their real personality from people, and do it very well. There's theories that he went crazy because of the bump on his head during the trolley heist, but I disagree with it, as he started showing his real personality way before that, when he shot and killed Heidi McCourt, an innocent girl, during the Blackwater heist. As the years went by, his plans ended in failure. His gang was on the run, he lost several people, and his friend Hosea's death probably broke him the most. When things didn't start going his way, many people started doubting him, and you started to see the real Dutch come out. You started seeing his real, manipulative, sinister personality. When his gang completely collapsed, he became even worse, completely losing it. In 1911, he's much worse, and does not even hide it. Dutch is a man who constantly claims he's for the poor, but yet he dresses up like an aristocrat. No one else in camp dresses up like him. He is obsessed with money. And has he at least shown any care for Arthur being sick? No. And why is he so focused on Blackwater in the original game? It's because Blackwater represents everything he hates. It represents the start of his gang's downfall with the Blackwater heist, and Blackwater, unlike St. Denis, is not a city, but a small western town that is experiencing urbanization and industrialization. Plus, the amount of police being located there as well as federal agents makes Dutch despise this town. That's why he keeps attacking it and trying to destroy it. It represents everything that Dutch hates, the industrialized western town, the end of the Wild West. And that is my video on Dutch. I hope you guys enjoyed me doing this analysis of him. This video took me a month to produce. Thank you to my friend Sean Easy for allowing me to use all of his Dutch footage. He has an entire video on all of Dutch's appearances. I will link that down below. Let me know what you guys think down below, and if you want me to do more videos like this in the future, I did want to do one on Micah as well, so let me know what you guys think of that. I'm sorry this video was so long, but there was no way for me to make it shorter without completely breaking down his character. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.